are on. Who told me that?
Dan.
Dan, thank you, Dan. Yeah, I really wanted to make sure I got recorded, and it usually is up on my left hand. Now it's up on my left-hand corner. Okay, I guess it was a long holiday break and I've forgotten how to Zoom. So welcome everyone to our Fairfax January luncheon. Obviously, we're still virtual, and hopefully we'll be back in person later this year. We're kind of estimating August maybe. So we'll see how it all goes. But for now, we will continue on with our luncheons virtually until we can all be back together again. Still hoping that we'll have our Fairfax Festival in October. So we're going to have lots of optimism starting off this new year. We have Kathy Nelson, who is the president and CEO of KC Sports Commission, is our featured speaker, and we have a lot of people joining on the luncheon today. So I think everyone wants to hear about sports and not politics or COVID. So this is a great topic for today. And we have Dan Dottie with Delta Innovative Services. They're our luncheon sponsor today. And so I've got a few announcements, and then I'll turn it over to Dan to talk about what's going on with Delta. But one of the announcements is I wanted to make sure, use your chat button, introduce yourself. We have like 45 plus people on that are going to be on, and I'm trying to remember to add everyone on as they're entering the luncheon. But if you use the chat and introduce yourself, like Clayton Hunter, hi, I'm Clayton Hunter with Salvation Army, on the chat. And then if you also want to like pick your word for the year, what's your word you want to focus on? Tara Laws and Tara's with Botter, we both picked health and healthy. So that's kind of a focus this year. And Rebecca, what was yours? In discerning? Oh, you're muted.
Discernment.
Discernment. That's a good word for the year too. I'm sure so it'll be interesting to see people pop on, think about what your word will be for the year to focus on. It'll be interesting what people say. So we did I'm gonna try to share the screen again over to our website. I don't know how often everyone looks at our website, but we did just finish and put out here our new business directory. So this is the homepage. And if you go up here and click on Fairfax FIA Business Directory, it's going to pop up in just a second. So this is a list of all the businesses in Fairfax, whether they're a member or not, and also all of our associate members. And we're going to continue to develop this. And if you have any corrections to it, please email me and let me know. And so I'll just show you. So basically you can either go under an industry, and that took a long time kind of for us to figure out like what, to keep, not have too many industries and then have some sub industries under it. So take a look and see if those make sense for where your business is at, because we want everyone to be able to find each other easily and make sure you're doing business with each other when you can. And then it's also in alphabetical order. So like Abavo is first, and obviously, and then we have what you call industry tags. And we haven't enabled this part of the directory yet, but when someone puts in up here under find listing for keywords like labels, Abavo will pop up. Or if they put in salt, my business CE distribution will pop up, or just different things like that. So some people have sent over to me what their key industry tag words are, some haven't. But if you do, not only is this putting you, if people are searching FIA, it also helps with your being popping up on the internet in general. So the more you're out there, you know, the more like you're going to come up first when someone's doing a search engine to find what they're looking for. So that's what's there's a directory. And then also always over on the right-hand side, we have information like our upcoming event, which is today. We've got, if you want to do any of the sponsorships, like the placemat sponsorship, which was on the screen share, a website link where you're featured, business on our web, luncheon sponsorship, which is like what Dan's company is doing today. Fairfax Forum. This information here, it captures all of our emails. So whenever I send an email blast out and you're like, oh, what was that? I forgot. If you go onto that, you'll be able to find it. So this is email information that was sent out recently about the Fairfax fire station when they closed it. Response numbers have not been met. So we're hoping that they're going to get that fixed. Fairfax monument signage. I don't know if you've all seen this, but this is now under contract to be built, and we hope it will be built and up and installed by this spring or summer. This tower right here is, we're going to have 3 of the towers. There's a bigger project that's got like a big thing going over the bridge. We're starting off with part of the project because this part in itself, these cost about $100,000 each to do. And they'll be big and be lit up. And it's got the B25. So we're going to have one of these at where you come in from 169 highway from the Missouri side onto 7th Street. Also at K5, where you come in off K5 on the Sunshine and over on Fairfax Traffic Way when you come in off of I-70. So whenever we put information out like that, if you miss it and want to find it, all of this is captured on this Fairfax form. So wanted to make sure you all saw that. Now I'm going to stop that share. Let's see. I guess that's the only other announcements I really have right now is that we're still looking for our February speaker. We haven't gotten that confirmed down yet. If any of you have any suggestions for speakers, let us know. We do have March 11th. We have Dawn Hammett with she's the director of the Eisenhower Presidential Library, and she's going to be our speaker on the Eisenhower Presidential Library Museum and the boyhood home of Dwight Eisenhower. Excuse me. And then April 8th, we have Rep. Sharice Davis, who Davis is going to join us, and I'm sure she will have lots of interesting things to talk about by April. So with that, those are all the announcements I have. I'm going to turn this over right now to Dan with Delta Innovative Services, who's our sponsor, to talk about what's going on with Delta.
Thank you so much. So if you all don't know who we are, Delta Innovative Services is a family-owned union commercial roofing and sheet metal company located over off of Kansas Avenue and 635 where it meets I-70. We just moved into our building here last March, which seems like a lifetime ago during COVID. And actually, I'm thinking about it now. My word for the year is portion control. I went a little too heavy this holiday, so I got to start taking some weight off. So this is going to be a real fun year for that. If you've never dealt with Delta before, we have 3 pretty distinct arms of the business. We have new construction, we have re-roofs of existing buildings, and then we have a dedicated division to repair and maintenance, which is what I work in. So I always tell people that if you're ever on my LinkedIn and you see your roof, I didn't do it intentionally. It just means you need to spend some money with us, which coming this time of year is extremely important. We're seeing a lot of buildings starting to fail at where walls meet roofs because of thermal expansion and contraction. So if you own your building, lease your building, or if you have noticed any watermarks in your ceiling tiles, feel free to give us a call. I'll put my contact information in the chat box. But really, we're just really excited for the Fairfax Industrial Association's work this past few years since we've been a part of it. It's a great organization. We really appreciate the effort they put out to make sure we're included. and also just all the stuff they try and do on a daily basis. Melissa, you are a rock star. So just
Aw,
want to make sure
thank you.
I'm sure we all like to hear that, but you can never hear it enough, right? So yeah, really just very happy to be on today. Looking forward to a great presentation. I didn't want to bore you guys too much with roofing. I know it's about the most boring subject in the world. Maybe a little bit less is, not as bad as mechanical, Samantha. So I know. Yeah, we're fine. I know Sam. Known Sam for a while. So Sam, how many weeks pregnant are you now?
19 weeks.
Congratulations.
Wow.
That's really wonderful. So
Yeah, we're having a COVID baby. Happens.
yeah. But no, Melissa, that's all I had. I didn't have too much for you today. Just happy to be here, happy to be a sponsor, and hopefully you can do some more for you.
All right. Well, Dan, thank you. We appreciate your support as an associate member. We need all of our associate members and the sponsorships. And thanks for calling me a rock star. God, you just made my day. I do not hear that often, so I really appreciate that. So thank you for that. And then I am going to now turn us over to John Latenzer, is going to introduce our speaker.
Thanks, Melissa. Hello to everybody on the meeting today. And I have to say one thing really quickly. My worst nightmare if I have a speaking part on a video conference is that our internet freezes temporarily and I'm not able to finish. And Melissa, if that happens, you delete me from the meeting and you go straight to Kathy. So
Okay.
just had to say that just in case. But so really one of the fun things I get to do with the Fairfax group is like today, introduce what's going to be a really terrific, interesting speaker that we're all excited to hear from. Yesterday, Melissa and I and Kathy Nelson had a little visit. We got to touch base on a couple things. Among other things, Kathy mentioned that her daily commute when she's going to the office takes her right through the Fairfax district. So she's keeping an eye on all of us. And that was kind of interesting to hear. But most of you would have seen the bio that was on the invitation for the meeting, so you're probably familiar with some of this. But so Kathy's background is originally in broadcast journalism and broadcast marketing. She was at Fox 4, Metro Sports, Time Warner Cable. In 2011, Kathy, I guess actually maybe in 2010, came to a portion or a organization part of the Sports Commission. And then in 2011 became the president and CEO of the Kansas City Sports Commission. If I was going to list all of the recognitions and honors and awards that I see on Kathy's resume, it would take all of the available time and we wouldn't get to hear from Kathy. But a couple are really notable and I'll just highlight those. Most recently, in a few months back, Kathy was inducted into the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame, which is a terrific honor. Kathy, congratulations on that one. Not too long ago, the Kansas City Star published a list of the top 20 influential sports figures in the area. And Kathy was listed at number 5. And a couple of the names ahead of her, you might recognize: Dayton Moore, Clark Hunt, David Glass. So Kathy's right up there in the most influential people in the area as it regards sports. Kathy and her team in 2017 were honored as the Sports Commission of the Year by a publication, Compete Magazine, which deals in things related to sports and Sports Commission. Another terrific honor for Kathy and the organization that she built. Kathy's interests obviously are much more than just sports. I see that She's very involved in various charitable organizations around town, contributes time and effort into some. I see she was awarded the Buck O'Neill Award from the Boys and Girls Club of Kansas City. That's notable. Kathy, I saw one interesting one also that at a fundraiser, I believe for Cristo Rey, you were the grand champion Dancing with Kansas City Stars grand champion. Kathy, we're not going to ask you to show any of those moves today.
That's best for everyone, yes.
Yeah. So Kathy's going to tell us a lot about what goes on behind the scenes in making all the various sports activities happen and bring them together. And it's really from the youth and amateur sports level all the way through professional sports such as the Chiefs and the Royals and Sporting KC. Anxious to hear about that. Anxious to hear a few backstories about how Kathy's group organized recently a World Series parade, a Super Bowl parade, etc. I found a comment that Kathy made, I believe, in her acceptance speech at the Missouri Sports Hall of Fame. And at one point she said, "What are we doing to make Kansas City better through sports?" So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy and let her tell us just that. So, Kathy, welcome aboard.
John, thank you so much. Melissa, thank you. It was great visiting with you yesterday. And as John shared, I do drive through Fairfax. I live up north and our offices are located in the Crown Center complex. We moved here. We were in the downtown area for quite a while and then moved here about 1.5 years ago, which is now very interesting. We have a small but really beautiful office, and normally I'm the only one here. Our staff is remote, like I'm sure many of you are. So I do enjoy driving through Fairfax. I did tease Melissa about a few of the potholes along the way here and there and getting over a few of those train tracks. But how can you not enjoy that every day you drive down Sunshine Street on your way to work? It's not a bad thing, right? Every morning. So I do love that. And I do have fond memories of the area. I have quite a few uncles that worked at the GM plant there, and now I still have cousins that work there. So again, a little family connection there. Thanks for having me today. As John shared, my background actually is in television and sports production. I was a reporter for Fox 4 back when it was NBC, not even Fox. Fox Television didn't exist. I worked with Cynthia Smith and Dan Henry and Phil Witt. So some names you might recognize. I spent 12 years at Fox 4 and left there as vice president of the television station and left to go start a sports television station called Metro Sports in Kansas City. So myself and a few others launched a sports station where we could televise high school sports on TV. That was a passion of mine. I was a high school and collegiate athlete. So for me, it was very much of a hometown feel. I grew up in Kansas City. I went to Winnetonka High School. So born and raised right by the Worlds of Fun water tower. So for me, it was a way to give back to our community. And I'd served on the Sports Commission Board of Director. I'd been a volunteer, I'd been a donor. My husband and I participated in many of the events. And at the time, Kevin Gray was the president of the Sports Commission, and Kevin and I both have daughters that played basketball together. And Kevin said, "Come work for me." And my husband's like, "You gotta be kidding me. You went from broadcast television to cable TV and took a pay cut, and now you're gonna go work at a not-for-profit and take another pay cut." But Kevin was the only person I would have changed my television career for. So I left all my TV days behind me in 2010 and came to work at the Sports Commission and was the Win for KC director. And 6 months after I started, Kevin passed away somewhat suddenly from muscle cancer. He was 51 years old and he passed in May of 2011. So it was a very trying time in our city. The board said, a few months after his passing, that they're like, "We think you could run the Sports Commission." And I told them no numerous times. I had no idea how to run a nonprofit. I didn't know what I was doing, and they promised me that I would have mentors around me. And I said yes on Thanksgiving Day of 2011. And it has been a joy every day since. Been struggles like all of you have in your career, but it's definitely been a joy and truly an honor to bring sports to our city and what Kevin had started, for me to be able to continue now and really make an impact in our city. I know when my legacy is looked at years down the road here, I can do that with a smile, knowing that we've played a role in leaving an impact in Kansas City. So today I thought I would share with you what's been happening with all of this crazy pandemic, the impact it's had on sports, but all of the cool positive things that are about to happen, and then let you ask questions. I know normally someone's like, what's going on with the NBA, or what's happening with Chiefs, and will we celebrate a Super Bowl? So I'm happy to answer any of those. Some I may not be able to answer, but I am happy to take those questions. So I do have a presentation I'm going to share with you here. Okay. Melissa, nod. Can you see this? Perfect. Okay. So when I started in my role, there were a lot of things up for bid. There were a lot of things that were getting ready to expire, such as the Big 12 Men's Basketball Championship was looking for a home, whether that be returning to Kansas City or finding a new city. NCAA championships were up. So we came up with our theme, City of Champions. So this page you see in front of you is really just a page and a tagline we use often when we are going after events. We know now, who would have thought in 2012 when we created this, that a couple years later we would have celebrated a World Series and a Super Bowl and, you know, potentially another MLS Cup. So we really are City of Champions. So normal life for us, obviously our sports commission is the oldest sports commission in the country. There are hundreds, 600 plus sports commission in the country. Kansas City is the oldest. We are also the largest, and that's based off of full-time staff and our budget. We do not receive public funding. We are funded through the events that we own and operate, and I'll walk you through a couple of those here in a little bit. So this is kind of a normal life for us in 2019. Typically, we start off early February with a couple events that we own, and then in March, we have a lot of college basketball. We host the MIAA Men's and Women's Championship. In 2019, we had the Big 12 Men, and then the NAIA Men's National Championship is in Kansas City. And also in 19, this isn't normal. We get this every 3 to 5 years. We hosted the NCAA Midwest Regionals, the Sweet 16 and the Elite 8 for the men's basketball. Broken attendance record, which is pretty typical for Kansas City, which is great. So that's March, a very busy March for us. And then in August, this doesn't happen very often, but we do host national championships. We hosted the USA Gymnastics Championship. We broke an attendance record. You may have seen Simone Biles broken record on her own and did a crazy stunt. I can't even remember what it was called. Still to this day stands. Only that was a year and a half ago, but a stunt that she will use in the Olympics in Tokyo was done here in Kansas City. October was our marathon. The Kansas City Marathon is owned and operated by the Sports Commission, and that's our largest revenue source. So if you're a runner, and it's not just a marathon, it's a 5K, 10K, half and full marathon, and or sponsor or donor, that revenue stays with us. So that happened, and that's one of the largest marathons, if not the largest in the Midwest, and it always gets recognized nationally for the success of that. And then in November, we had hosted the Big 12 Women's Soccer Championship, which is held at Swope. And we'd also hosted fencing. Not sure many of you even follow fencing or not. Obviously, it's still an Olympic sport. My mom was a fencer. So for me, it's pretty cool to see that we're able to host these championships. So we hosted the North American Cup in November, Canada, United States, and Mexico here in Kansas City. And those were all as they were preparing for the Olympics in 2020. Again, kind of a normal year for us, some big events sprinkled in with about 30 of our own events that we operate. 2020 happens and we all know and think, what in the world? But who would have thought we started 2020 with the Super Bowl parade? In 2014, when the Royals were on a run, the mayor called and said, and at the time it was Sly James, and the mayor calls and says, Kathy, I'm assuming if the Royals win, the sports commission would plan something. And I said, well, gosh, Mayor, we plan sporting events. I wouldn't know how to plan a parade. And he said, well, what is the difference? And I did not have a quick reaction to that. He's like, perfect, you can plan this. So we worked with another group in town and planned the World Series parade in 2014, of course, then in 2015. And then in 2019, we were able to plan what we were hopeful was a Super Bowl parade and then see it come to fruition again in 2020. So our staff was very busy, obviously starting back in August, all through the Chiefs season, planning up to and leading into the parade that you probably saw. Maybe some of you actually attended then in February. We also host the Win for KC Women's Sports Awards every February, and this is the largest gathering celebrating women and girls in sports in the country, and that's based here in Kansas City. And then in March, of course, we were ready to tip college basketball. We'd hosted the MIAA. We tipped the men's Big 12 championships, and the women were back in Kansas City for the first time since 2012. And of course, you all know that was the week that the world shut down. So we canceled Big 12. Men had played 2 games, women didn't tip, but they have extended both men's and women's through 2025. In 2020, this past year, of course, all of our events that we own have gone virtual, whether that's our kids' camps and clinics, our runs, our celebration events that we do, all of those went virtual. And this was kind of an unknown, but the NFL had awarded Kansas City in 2020 to be the kickoff city, which is that first Thursday night game. So not only does your team play in that game, but you also host a massive kickoff event for about 50,000 people. So we've been planning that all throughout the year. That didn't really come to fruition. We did bring in Alicia Keys. She played down at 18th and Vine and had the opening song for that game. So that was one of those weird changes. A lot of work went into that, and then ended up with, we did have dinner with Alicia, but we ended up just recording her songs and that played in the game. We added a golf tournament to at least drive a little bit of revenue for us. And then our marathon pivoted to a 1,000,000-mile challenge where we encouraged our community to run or walk 1,000,000 miles. So lots of changes, just like all of you have. Then in December, November, December, a busy time for us at Sprint Center, now called T-Mobile Center. We did host the Hall of Fame Classic, which is the College Basketball Experience Classic. We did that the week of Thanksgiving. We did that, pulled it off with no fans. And then this was the year 2020, we were bringing Mizzou and KU back to play at Sprint Center, and we had an agreement with them, of course, and that was canceled, but you will see MU-KU men's basketball back at T-Mobile Center in 2025 and 2026. So lots of changes happened in 2020 for us. Moving forward, we're all looking forward to a 2021 and beyond, and what that means. Our Win for KC event I shared in February will still be virtual. Most of our events, first quarter, second quarter, possibly even third quarter, will continue to be virtual. I'm excited about this. I had the honor of sitting down with Sarah Thomas at her home in Memphis a few weeks ago and interviewed her. You will see her story on February 13th there on KMCI. So she will be our keynote highlight for us. And her story is fantastic about how she became the first NFL official, a first female official in the NFL. So keep that on your calendar to hear her story. We are working very hard on college basketball in March. Just before I joined this call, I had a call with the MIAA to try and get their season or their championship happening. Of course, we have Big 12 men's and women's basketball. We're keeping our fingers crossed. That will happen at both Municipal and T-Mobile Center. A few exciting things that we are working on as well that will be happening. In April, we are hosting the NCAA Women's Bowling National Championship at the Pro Bowl in North Kansas City. People are sometimes laugh at that. It is a massive championship. Unfortunately, no fans. It is televised on ESPN. So that's a huge win for us. We bid on that about 6 years ago, And finally, we're awarding the Women's Bowling Championship. And that's across all 3 divisions for the NCAA. And one of the most powerful bowling teams in the country is based in Nebraska. The University of Nebraska has a very strong women's bowling team, as does University of Central Missouri down in Warrensburg. So of course, when we bid on this, we were hoping to attract some great regional fans to our city. Now we will just have the athletes, but it's great that Kansas City will be on ESPN and having that televised on that Saturday. We've also been awarded the NCAA Division II Men's Golf Regionals up at Shoal Creek. Hopefully a few fans at that, but again, that would be covered on ESPN Plus. And to see those athletes come to our city is a big win for us. You don't always hear about these smaller events, but they are critical in us getting these larger events. We have to prove to people like the NFL, the NCAA, and different event owners that we can make these events happen and happen now safely, that then we're awarded bigger and bigger events. We have a lot of excitement on the horizon for Kansas City. This past October, the NCAA awarded Kansas City 3 massive events. We're bringing the men's basketball regionals back. Again, this is the Sweet 16 and Elite 8 in March of 2023. So that will happen in a very busy 2023, and I'll touch on that here in a moment. We've been awarded the Men's Division I Wrestling Championships. And if you're not familiar with this, this is the 2nd largest collegiate championship next to a men's Final Four. You will know when this event is in our city. The hotels will be full. Hopefully by 2024, we're all back opened up for business. Restaurants will be moving and busy. It'll be a tough ticket to get. They typically sell tickets a year or so out, and it sells out. So people across the United States will come in for that. And those wrestling championships are always televised on national television. And then I'm very excited, we're bringing volleyball back. In December of 2025, we have the NCAA Division I Women's National Championship back. We hosted this in 2017. We broke an attendance record. And the volleyball championship also comes with a massive conference. So every volleyball coach across the United States will come in for that. Some really cool things in 2023 happening. Our association, just like all of you belong to this association, we also belong to a sports commission association called the Sports Events and Tourism Association. And we were to have hosted that national convention in April of 2020. That didn't happen, of course. So they've re-awarded us that event in 2023. So on top of men's NCAA regionals, all of our basketball in March, we will be hosting our national convention. So my counterparts and probably a couple thousand people from across the country in the sports industry will come to Kansas City for that. And the week after, we will be hosting the NFL Draft, which is an event that we worked about 6 years on before it was awarded to our city. And the NFL Draft is a very interesting and unique opportunity and event. I don't know if you've tuned in for that. The NFL Draft used to be hosted in New York, and it wasn't a big fan engagement opportunity. It then moved from New York to Chicago kind of as a test to see if a city could host one of these events. The NFL Draft now is the largest fan experience next to the Super Bowl, and it's free. So, which is a huge positive for everyone that's a football fan. So they've been to Chicago a couple years. They went to Philadelphia. They've been to Dallas, and they were to have been in Las Vegas this year. Of course, that went virtual. It'll be in Cleveland in 2021, and it will be in Las Vegas in 2023, and then in Kansas City in 2020. I'm sorry, Vegas in 2022, and then in Kansas City in 23. And couldn't be more proud of being awarded that after lots of work and partnering with the chiefs and our city manager's office to get that done. So you'll see football fans from all across the country come in. And then something on our radar we're more than thrilled about is in 2026 being a potential host city for the FIFA World Cup. This is the largest sporting event in the world. And if you're not a soccer fan, or as most people know it as football, something to look out for. If we're awarded games for the FIFA World Cup in 2026, they would be played at Arrowhead. But bigger than that is everything that comes with the World Cup, from fan festivals, officials training, team base camps. Whatever happens with this, if we're awarded matches for us, would be potentially the same as hosting 6 Super Bowls within a month. It's that kind of impact. And that impact will change our city. We don't quite know how yet. It could be transportation changes. It could be walkability. There could be a park could come out of this. The legacy that the World Cup will leave in our city is yet to be seen and determined. We will know by the end of this year if we will be hosting World Cup matches. Oh, and I put there on the website, kc2026.com, if you're looking for information, is a great way to see what that's all about. You may not be a sports fan, and I can appreciate that. I have a daughter that could care less about sports. I don't get it, but that's okay. But sports are important in our community, and there's so many reasons why. When you think about a sporting event, there's a quality of life that comes with that. It adds to the vibrancy and the growth of our city, whether that's KCK or KCMO. That picture there on the left is a picture of our marathon start line. We'll have 10 to 12,000 runners from across the world that come in and see our city. And when you think about October and typically how beautiful it is with the fall and the changing colors, there's not a better way to show off our city to someone that's coming in for a week to run through the streets of our community. You see there, again, a picture with your families. We want your families to be healthy. We want you to feel like there's a quality of life here in Kansas City attached to sports. And that lower right-hand picture is one of our camps that we do. We have a girls' camp for about 1,000 girls, ages 6 through 12. We know that that adds to your quality of life. There's also legacy projects with these events. These events, such as Big 12 basketball, they know that Kansas City is very special and they want to leave something behind. So the bottom left picture you see is in Olathe at the Kansas School for the Deaf. We now, every year that the Big 12 is here, we work with a city or a community on a legacy project, and we go back and forth, Kansas and Missouri, back and forth across the state line. The year we did the School for the Deaf, we refurbished the court, painted the walls, put in new bleachers, a sound system, and all of that. And that was the Big 12 paying for all of that, and their corporate partners. So you see that picture there of Big 12 staff, Phillips 66, Sonic executives came in and paid to give back to Kansas City. The top right picture, when we hosted the figure skating national championships in Kansas City in 2016, they asked what could they do for our community, and we went out and sought figure skating clubs that maybe needed something to encourage kids to learn how to figure skate or to skate in general. So the figure skating championships left behind a financial legacy, which is now continuing to pay for skates, costumes that you see, which are very expensive, and even lessons for kids to learn how to skate. And that bottom right picture is another legacy from the Big 12 when the Urban Youth Academy was built behind the Negro Leagues Museum, which are beautiful fields. If you've not been out there to see those, I encourage you to at least drive by. Those fields are great, but they displaced basketball courts that were used by the community 24/7. So the Big 12 stepped in and said, let's rebuild those basketball courts next to the baseball fields. So that's a picture of breaking ground, and the Big 12 basketball courts are now back out there, and they have the Big 12 logo on them. And it's great when I drive by and I see people out there just playing pickup ball. It does my heart well to see that happening. There's also an image that sports can bring to our city. I can't pay for that kind of advertising. I can't afford that kind of advertising. And when you think about that parade picture That was from, of course, the 2015 World Series parade. And now we have that same picture in red. I use that picture in so many of our pitches for events to show them what Kansas City does and how we show up. That image I can't get from any other event. I can't get from a convention. I can't get from a meeting. And that's because of the success of a sports team. So again, being able to pay for that image would never happen, but having that legacy and that impact that the parade has done for our city has helped us to attract and be a host city for a World Cup, the NFL draft, and all these other national championships. Because people see that and go, those are people? Oh my gosh. Sports in our city can also be a game changer. They truly can transform our community. How many of you remember downtown before Sprint Center, T-Mobile Center? I grew up, my mom worked at Western Auto, the building downtown. My dad worked at TWA, and we would go downtown at 5 o'clock and pick my mom up from work at the Western Auto building, and it was scary. You didn't want to be downtown at 7 o'clock. Sports being able, for us using that venue to attract a sporting event has helped transform Kansas City. Of course, that venue hopefully soon will be open again, but is used for so many other things. But I think we really know the difference in the impact that T-Mobile Center has brought to our city. And now we want people live down there, which is so great to see. There's also economic activity that comes with hosting these events. Millions and millions, if not billions of dollars are generated because of a sporting event. That's a picture of Big 12 basketball. Those are mostly Iowa State fans, and we love Iowa State. If Iowa State makes it to the championship of the men's basketball tournament on that Saturday, there's a lot of beer that gets poured, and that's a lot of money. And they love to come down and eat. And they fill up our hotels. And not to say the other 9 schools of the Big 12 conference don't do that, but Iowa State's pretty special. But you think about, not everyone in that crowd had a ticket to get to the game. They wanted to be around the energy and the activity of sport. And by them spending their dollars is better for all of us. It's better for the server at Johnny's Tavern. It's better for the Uber driver. It's better for the hotel and the housekeepers. All of that helps make everything more financially positive because of a game. And lastly, there's a social impact that comes with sports. Like I said, you don't have to be a sports fan to appreciate. There's a social impact about a ball, about a track meet, about a golf tournament that makes you feel good. That visual on the left there is from this crazy idea we did called Relay the Way in 2016. So the Royals had won the World Series in 2015, and Dayton Moore called me after and said, I have this idea. What if we did the world's longest first pitch? I don't know what this means, but I think we could do something crazy. And he needed to raise a little bit more money for the Urban Youth Academy. So our staff brainstormed along with a couple other groups and came up with Relay the Way. And we took the first pitch baseball that was used to open the 2016 season. And that morning of the opening day game, we took the ball at Union Station where the parade ended in 2015. And you see all those people lined up on that blue line. For about 12 to 13 miles, we tossed that first pitch ball through our city from Union Station all the way across to home plate at Kauffman Stadium. And you see all those people in line, everyone paid, I think it was $30 or $35. They got a t-shirt, they got a lanyard, and our staff guided them on, okay, you need to be at this block at this time. We turned thousands and thousands of people away because we just couldn't fit everyone in. We also blessed our interns. We had taken our interns out from that semester. It was very cold. We took them to the downtown airport because we were trying to figure out the math equation. We work in sports, so not all of us have a great math background. We were trying to figure out how far you could toss the ball without dropping it. So our interns practiced just pitching or tossing the ball to each other before we came up with our equation of how many feet apart we would place people. We also now are in the Guinness World Record books for this. And the baseball that was tossed the entire way is in the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame in a glass case with details about that. But it made us feel good. Our city was so ready to celebrate our World Series winners, the Kansas City Royals, and celebrate them going into 2016. And I think that that's when really the light bulb went off for me about sports is beyond wins and losses. It is about championing our city to get around a cause like this. So to raise money that went 100% went into the Urban Youth Academy. I was really proud of that event that we did. And then on the right is again from one of our camps, and just getting kids to experience, they may not be the best, they're not going to be a Division I athlete more than likely, but to know that resiliency, I saw some of your words, that the words you all have for this year, those words are so tied to sports, leadership, resiliency, goal setting, all of that is connected back. And again, that social impact from sport. Okay, so I've talked a lot and I tend to talk fast, so my apologies if I did, but I'd love to take questions or answer anything or talk more sports. And thank you for listening. Let me stop sharing my screen here. So I don't know, Melissa, how you want to handle a few questions if we have a few minutes.
We do. We have about 10 minutes. So I'm sure there's lots of people. I was just catching up on some of the chatter. And so anyone that wants to speak, I had everyone muted. There was some background noise I wasn't sure about. So just unmute and ask away.
Kathy, great presentation, really informational. I'm really looking forward to the wrestling championships coming to town. I've wrestled in that tournament a million years ago. It is
wow.
it is a big event. So what kind of plans? I'm sure what can you share with us? What kind of plans are you doing to celebrate the next Super Bowl win by our Kansas City Chiefs?
Yeah. We have lots of ideas. I can tell you confidentially, please do not tweet this. There will not be a parade, obviously. The health department, they are great to work with. And Dr. Archer said, you know, Kathy, I don't really see us opening up from 10 people to 500,000 people anytime soon. So we will not be hosting a parade. We, of course, want to keep everyone in our community safe. And of course, want to keep our players and the staff with the Chiefs safe. We have some creative ideas working. I'm not sure any of them will come to fruition the week after the Super Bowl. One of the ideas that's trending, and again, I'm sharing with the small group here, one of the ideas is that we do something when they do get their rings, that we would do a public ring ceremony, because typically that's for team and their family only. Like what we did this year with them is they received their rings at Arrowhead on the field, socially distanced, and their families in different areas where they could zoom in like this. But maybe if, you know, it's lifted by August, we would do a ring ceremony publicly where the players could get their rings in front. All to be determined. We're working really hard on creative ideas, but everything, we tend to hit a wall with you know, how we could do it. I mean, we've had crazy ideas of, do a reverse parade and put the players on stages all throughout somewhere, whether that's Arrowhead or the streets, and everyone stays in their car, and then you're the parade and drive through and wave at the players. We've talked about that, but you know, part of the problem too is there's a cost to that. These parades are not free, very expensive. So the city doesn't have the financial means for us to do something, and nor do most of the sponsors. We raised well over $1 million, like 1.6 million from sponsors and private donations for the Super Bowl parade. And then the city chipped in 600,000 cash plus covered a few other costs. So, you know, you're already at 2.5 million, and not that it would be that expensive again, but to raise any money, even $500,000 would be complicated this year. And I can appreciate that. So No idea yet, but more than likely you won't see a big public event, which is too bad. But we know they're going to win, so we'll figure it out.
Kathy, quick question, and thanks again for joining us today. I wanted to say that again, but so a couple of years ago, there was the charity basketball game at then Sprint Center between
Yes.
MU-KU.
Yep.
Benefits went to a cancer support program. Tell us a
They-
little backstory about putting that together, because that would be maybe really, really fascinating how that did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so many backstories, some of which I can't tell. But so I obviously work with the athletic directors very closely at these universities, and actually call many of them friend. So I had been working with Shan at KU, and at the time Jim, well, it had been Mike Alden, of course, he had left that position, and Jim Sturck was the AD and brand new AD. And Jim says, I'll do anything, however you can get us to play. And at that time, KU did not want to play in Missouri. There was still a lot of hurt feelings after Missouri had left the conference. So out of the blue, about 3 weeks before it happened, I got a call from the basketball operations guy, Sean at KU, and he said, you're never going to believe this, Coach Self, his dad's putting pressure on him to get to do something creative to raise money. It wasn't for cancer. It was for the storms that had hit. What am I trying to say? To raise money for the
The
New Orleans.
tornadoes?
Yeah, the hurricane.
Oh, hurricane, sorry.
Yes. And he said, so we know you can get creative with ideas, and coach would trust you to come up with something. And so I said, well, there's the MUKU idea out there. And Bill said yes. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me, but it had to be preseason. So Sprint Center had the date open. We quickly got everyone on the phone and worked on a contract and agreed that all proceeds would go back to that fundraiser. Actually have a really nice letter from the presidents, the past presidents of the United States that shared that. A very nice letter, because we ended up raising $2 point something million for that. So we sat with ticketing people. We did the line as you saw on television. It was you either black and gold or red and blue, and there was no crossing over. So that game came together in 3 weeks. We worked with television and decided instead of just putting it on broadcast, we could make more money by doing a pay-per-view. So we went that route. So we made money by pay-per-view, by sponsors, we sold merchandise and then tickets, and sold out, of course, within minutes of doing that. And then at the game, I'll tell you behind the scenes story at the game. What the Missouri and KU guys were on, the leadership were on separate sides of the venue. Typically everyone mingles in one room during a championship or during the game. They all know each other. So I had the Missouri guys, the athletic directors over here, and I see Jim and Shan and Sean from KU on the other side. So I walked over to Shan, at the athletic director at the time, Dr. Zinger, and I sat down next to him and I said, thank you for being willing to do this. And he looked at me and points to me and he says, you know, I like you and I told you I owed you a favor. No more. This is it. I go, okay. And he said, we're here to do this. We'll take a picture. You got to stand in the middle, but we'll come together and do this for what's the right thing to do. And because Coach Self's dad was very much pushing for that. Shan now has since left KU, and Jeff Long, the athletic director at KU, he's very excited. And so when we went and met with him, he's like, how can I help you? And I said, let's bring the rivalry back. And that's how it happened. It really comes down to relationships. And I'm much more of the connector and go between. Someone will call me and say, will you call them and tell them this? So I get a phone, call them and tell them this, and then I call them back. So I'm much more of that connector and go between when it comes to relationships and personalities and communications, if you will. And sometimes I just need a friendly voice to say, we could do this and get this done.
Do we have someone else? Flipping through.
Kathy, I have to ask one more. I know somebody else is thinking of a question there, but when the conversation goes to downtown stadiums, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, I travel to many other cities. Well, typically I travel a lot, and I travel to other cities that have downtown ballparks, and I always try and catch a game at whatever city I'm visiting, whether that's soccer, football, basketball, whatever. And I love a downtown baseball stadium. That's not my decision. That is definitely now with David Glass in the pic, or not David Glass, with John Sherman in the picture. That's really his conversation to have with the city. And with the other owners now. I think it would be successful, but I also, as a Kansas City girl, certainly love going out to Kaufman. So I try and stay as neutral as possible on that question. I think it would work. I see us in downtown being celebrating sports very well downtown with Power and Light District. There's nothing but positives there. However, I do know what going out to Kaufman feels like, and I certainly would miss that. I do think there's a downtown stadium in the works at some point, but the new women's professional soccer team that we've announced for Kansas City, the team arrives in Kansas City on the 23rd, and we'll move, the whole team from Utah will move to Kansas City, including the new draft picks that were made yesterday. And they will be playing out at T-Bone Stadium for a couple, maybe 1 or 2 years, but they are actually looking at building a smaller downtown soccer stadium, 10,000 seats or so, which would be great to have a women's soccer team, professional soccer team down there, and then us being able to use that venue for multiple other events to bring to town. So there's probably something in the works. Will it be baseball? Yet to be determined. Steve.
I've got a question, please. Kathy, do you have any input regarding the American Royal construction project that's been on hold for some time? Obviously, we have had this pandemic to slow things down, but some around the Wyandotte County area feel that it could go forward with a certain kind of a nudge or something.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you my passion. I used to compete professionally in the rodeo. When I was growing up, I was a barrel racer, competed in the prairie circuit. So I would love to see that come to fruition and that building built and continued success to the American Royal. I'm not involved with that. However, Cliff Elig is a friend, and obviously working closely with him on World Cup. I have not talked to him in the last few months, but I will absolutely make sure I mention something to him and get a feel for what's happening. If I get any scoop, I'll let Melissa know. She can pass along. But other than that, I think you're right. We would love to see that move forward, but with the pandemic, it's been pretty quiet these last 10 months on that.
Yeah, Kathy, that's interesting. I can definitely see you as a barrel racer. Now that I have a lot of barrel racing friends. I have horses, and I just bought a ranch and I'm living with my horses now. So
that's great.
I'm looking out my window watching them because they're worried. And I'm working from home. Actually, I'm headed into Fairfax after this. So that's really all the time we have now for questions. It's 12:28, so we're going to do our door prizes. But Kathy, thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
Chatter, really enjoy. Yeah, let's all do the air clap hands. I know everyone enjoyed listening to you and gave us all a break from the rest of what's going on in the world. This is happy, positive news, and sports is great. And thank you so much for all you do. You're a great leader for our community.
Thank you, and I appreciate having the time.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And we will send out, so everyone knows, we will be sending out a recap of all of this, and anything Kathy has, I'll put on the email as well for any links that you need to know about. So with that, now I'm looking at it. I just switched over the screen with a bunch of us on there. Rachel Chambers is somewhere. Rachel, where are you?
I'm here.
Okay, we're gonna do we have two door prize drawings. The door prizes were donated by Dan with Delta Innovative, and it's Amazon gift cards, which are super easy and nice to use. And Amazon's kind of taken over the world. I have to say I use them a lot. So, gosh, why can't I find you, Rachel? Anyway,
I'm right next to you on my screen.
I know, now we are next to each other. Okay, so let's go and draw the first name.
All right, I have everyone's name cut up and in here. So the first one is Mary Bichet. Did I say your last name correctly?
Mary Bichet, congrats.
All right.
Yes, you
All
did.
right.
Thank you.
All right, and then the second one is Samantha Howell, and you were on the other side of me on my screen. So congratulations, ladies.
Congrats. Congrats, everyone. And stay safe. Hopefully we'll all be getting vaccinated or get through all this soon and get through the next week politically. But thank you all so much. And we will keep you informed on when we have the February speaker scheduled, but keep that on your calendar. It's the second Thursday, February. Don't hold me to it. It's the second Thursday in February. And then also please make sure you go on to the website and look at your company under the directory and make sure we have all of that information correct, because Lord knows I make mistakes, but we tried to comb through and make it as accurate as we could. So thank you all. Have a great day. Pray for ice and snow. Bye.